Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling with Game Dev with myself, Tony Giles, alongside the actual man with the plan, Mike Hermann. How's it going, Mike?
Good, Tony. How you doing? Sorry to make you wait off screen there a little bit.
No,
Well, we're
important
always
business.
cooking something at RetroSoft Studios, huh?
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with I know what's going on, but yeah, I'm totally cool with it because yeah, it's the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Trust me. In a little while time, everybody will know. But we left on such a pivotal point last week. It was you'd made the decision. Mrs. Herman was on board. You'd started hiring artists. Like, was there a point where you just, was it 2022? I think you said. Is that the time frame we're around?
Oh no, right now that's after the launch. We're in 2018 right now.
Right, 2018. Yeah. So was there a point at the start when you kind of, it just hit you one day like, damn, I'm making a game. Like it's happening.
You know, I think it was when I wrote that check to Animal.
Right. Okay. Cool. Right? Cool.
So it was, I'm spending money now. Now, you know, my non-existent budget had to come to fruition real quick. Then I started thinking, all right, how much is this really going to cost me? And then putting the budget together, and I'll tell you, my initial budget, it's funny, in software development in general, it's like the last 5% cost 100% of the budget. You know what I mean? It's just like of a game, and that truer words have never been spoken, especially in my case,
right.
Because my budget, and I think I was like, ended up being like 8 times to 10 times what my initial budget was.
Whoa.
And I just didn't know, you know, like, oh, I can do with this. And it's funny, I had right around this time, I reached out to somebody who gave like there's a conference called GDC, a Game Developers Conference in San Francisco every year. It's the biggest game development conference in the US. The equivalent over there, I think Gamescom is in Germany, I want to say this year. But there's one.
Yes.
There's one in Europe that's similar. But I saw a talk there about a guy and budgets and how to design a game. The problem I had with it was I wasn't getting into game dev to go into game dev. I had a very specific goal. And it was make WrestleFest 2. Like that, I had a very, like, there's not going to be anything else. You know what I mean? There's not going to be start small with me. I wasn't going to do, like, and I know if you want to do this for a living, that's absolutely the best advice that someone can give you. Get a manageable game, a manageable scope, and just do something small and release it. Don't spend a lot of time. You don't know if it's going to fail. Learn your lessons as you go. Next game, maybe make it a little bigger, maybe make it smaller. Try to get more and more releases out. And that is good, solid advice. And you'll hear that a lot from other game developers. I threw that out though. I'm like, I'm not making that kind of game. Like, I'm making a wrestling game, and the hell, I want to add all this stuff to it. Now, with that said, I did not end up adding everything I wanted, but even going in at this early stage in 2018, I already knew I was making a mistake, and I didn't care. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, yeah, you don't know a lot of this stuff. And the guy who gave that talk, I actually reached out to and paid him for like a consultation. And I laid out my plan. I laid out my budget. He's like, I really don't think you can do all that in the budget that you have listed.
Right. Okay.
And he was right. You know, he was definitely right.
He was 100% right. Yeah.
You know, so I put this budget together. I write this check to Animal. And now I'm like, now what? Like, I have this. I go down. I told this story kind of ahead of time last time, but the whole meeting with Hulkster, you know, didn't go. And if you didn't hear that story, I think that's a good one. You should go back and listen to episode 5. But I knew that I couldn't get more wrestlers that way. Right. So I thought that wasn't going to work. That doesn't work for me, brother. You know? So let me try to find another outlet to get somebody. So I looked on various job sites. You know, I'm like, am I going to hire somebody? I don't really need anybody full time to help me with licensing because it's not really a full time position. And I definitely, or if nothing else, I couldn't afford to pay somebody full time salary to do this, you know. And I know I didn't want to deal with these bookers anymore. So it was either I try to find connections myself, which I ended up doing a little bit anyway, but it's, let me just look around. Eventually, somehow I got to LinkedIn. All right. Where people post their resumes and everything like that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, let me just look around on LinkedIn. So I looked up wrestling, some stuff came up until I found the man who was born to help me, is what I'll say. A gentleman by the name of Mike Archer. So, Mike was on LinkedIn. His resume, 2 of his longest stint jobs, his experience, were working for Acclaim back during the Acclaim wrestling games, and which may be good or bad. But he didn't do the NES stuff. And then he worked for WWE. And he was part of helping their Legends deal. He's helped with the video game development when the 2K stuff came on. I think he was with THQ. He had recently left there. So he had that's he knew the video game market, and he knows the video game market, and he knows the wrestling world.
That's like the perfect person to come across, right? Yeah.
So I reach out to him via like a LinkedIn instant message, a DM. You know? Responded to me maybe in a day or two. He's like, yeah, I'm interested. Let's talk. So we traded a couple emails, and then we set up a lunch. He lives upstate, or not upstate, but in New York, out in New York. I'm in PA. So it was roughly, I might have drove 3 hours ish to him. And we met, he's doing me the favor of taking a meeting. So I go in again. Hey, I work in accounting and finance software. I've never made a game before, but I have the Road Warriors signed on. So, and honestly, that was one of the big hurdles to jump over. Was now at least I had, and I alluded to this last episode, but I at least had something to say. Well, I have the Road Warriors, and the Road Warriors are even today. And maybe I'm getting a little older, but depending on what age you are, they're definitely top 5 all-time tag teams, right?
100%.
If not 1.
100%.
Depending on where the cutoff is, you know what I mean? So, and for the game, a game called with the word retro in the title, it's in some fashion. I knew that got his attention. So it's like, well, he's got somebody, so he spent some money to get a license. And so I drove up there. We met at like this little like coffee shop, and it's funny. I was talking to him. He still works with me. He still contracts for me, and I asked him. I was talking to him yesterday. It was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday was yesterday. Either Sunday or Saturday. And I said, "Hey, do you remember when we met the first time?" Because I was working on this episode, and I was telling him. Do you have the list that we wrote down? Because we had a list of names, so he's going to look for it. He couldn't find it right away, but I know, we went through and named a whole bunch of people, and I'm curious who I remember was on it. Some people we could get, some people we couldn't, but we put a list together.
And
I think
how many people?
We probably put at the time. And this is what we initially advertised with too. We were 12 to 16 wrestlers is what we were advertising. Well, at this point we weren't advertising, but eventually we would advertise 12 to 16 wrestlers. And I'm thinking to myself, after I put that budget together and I paid Animal, and I'm like, I don't know how many I'm gonna be able to afford to do this, So and it's not like they ask for astronomical amounts, but you take that and you multiply it times 12 or 16, and it
Exactly.
adds up quick,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So especially when I don't know if I'm going to make any money. Again, I'm still total imposter syndrome. Who's going to want to play this game? Am I the only one, you know? And maybe a couple of my friends from who I grew up with,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
So we put together this list of names. We got like 12 to 20 names on there. But one of the key things that happened in this conversation was, let's not limit it to retro wrestlers. The game will be retro. And this was a big change for me to think of conceptually. Because at the time, like I want the original WrestleFest roster on here. So I want Demolition. I want Hulk. I want Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
And all these other guys. And Sergeant Slaughter. And then you slowly realize, well, a lot of these guys are tied up in Legends deals, you know. Some of them want more money than I can afford, you know, a bunch of different reasons. So we kind of came to the conclusion, well, what if the game is retro styled, but the roster is just a mix of yesterday, you know, today and in the future, you know? So we thought it would be good to get a mix, and we could get 4 legends, 4 guys that are today, you know, maybe indie guys or legends that are a little newer, maybe from the Attitude Era versus from the Territory days, something like that. And then maybe people who are on popular people on the independents right now and stuff like that. So our roster started taking shape right there, where the thought process was, well, let's have a little bit for everybody. Because we thought instead of just keying in on that retro audience that we would get with the Road Warriors, but what if we could get more people that are on TV today or promoting themselves today? So that was kind of the shape the roster took. And then
at this time, were you actually still actively watching wrestling and keeping up with newer talent and things like that? Because I mean, there was a time when I was a ferocious tape trader, watched all the indies. This was right around the sort of early 2000s with the Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Loki, that kind of a time. But I don't really follow indie wrestling anymore. Had you still kind of kept your finger on it?
You're going to call me out as a fraud is what you're doing right now.
No, I'm genuinely interested, because if people said to me now, like, who are your favorite indie guys?
Right.
Like, I would genuinely be like, I probably know 4 or 5. That's it. But there was a time when I could have literally listed 100. So were you still actively watching independent wrestling?
That's a great point. No, I was not.
Right. Okay.
I will. Okay. So I watched from 10, like I was caught up in Hulkamania for sure.
Right. Okay.
But funny enough, I watched NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions first.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I've told this story on other podcasts before, but basically I didn't know that it was like, I thought like there's Major League Baseball, there was the NFL. So I didn't understand that there were multiple, you know, I was 10, you know, so I didn't understand there were multiple wrestling organizations. So
So gotcha.
And where I grew up, the WWF was on Saturday mornings and NWA was on Saturday afternoons. So me and my friends would talk. Oh, did you see the Junkyard Dog is what they're saying. Did you see Hulk Hogan? And at the time, I'm like, who's that? Like, do you know Dusty Rhodes? Do you know the Rock and Roll Express? You know, do you know Magnum TA? Do you know Nikita Koloff and the Russians? They're like, no, who are they? And it took us like a couple of weeks to figure out, you know, oh, there's different leagues and you know, so I watched religiously up through college. Like I watched.
Right. Okay.
And it's funny. I probably stopped watching right as the Monday Night Wars were probably at their peak. But I graduated college. I didn't have as much time to watch wrestling. But like I watched through 97, and the NWO was just forming. Sting was in the rafters. You know, WWE Stone Cold was just starting to come up. When was that King of the Ring? 96 was the promo he cut, right? So, and then I was pretty much out. And it's funny. I remember having a conversation with my wife's cousin, who was a lot younger than us. And I'm like, and I followed it, but in the not too closely. And I'm like, he's like, who would win? I'm like, who would win, Goldberg or Stone Cold? And I wasn't really watching the product much. And I thought he would say Goldberg just because I'd seen a little bit more. It's like Stone Cold would kill him. And I'm like, get out of here. But now I've since gone back and watched all this stuff. And now I see why he said that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't watch really much anything. I had a Ring of Honor subscription though.
Oh, okay.
Probably in the 2010s ish, 2010, around there. I was watching Ring of Honor. I think I watched a couple of those early TNA pay-per-views as well when they came back.
Yeah.
And I've always followed it. You know what I mean? I always kind of knew who the champions were of like the TNAs, the even the Ring of Honor. You know, and I watched a little bit of MLW at the time because it was I think they were running a lot out of the 2300 arena. So
right. And you were an ECW watcher as well.
Oh yeah,
because you're a Philly guy, so you saw a lot of when the WWF. Like I personally stopped watching at the New Generation and got back in when Stone Cold and everything started blowing off, because the New Generation to me was terrible. I was a kid, but even I was like, man, this sucks. This is not good. But then when the Austin thing and their thing, and then you know, someone introduced me to ECW, I'm like, what in the world is this? But you saw that as it was happening, right?
Oh yeah, I watched all the New Generation. High Energy, the Coco Beware, and Owen Hart tag team, and there was some stuff. Although the WrestleMania arcade game was during the new generation, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, I like that game. When that game came out, I thought it was great. It was different. You know what I mean?
Different. It was a side-scrolling beat 'em up, but we're wrestlers, which at the time was like, oh, the Undertaker's getting a fake tomb or like a tombstone, and he's like bucking people, and that in itself was pretty cool. And now, obviously, viewers, I have gone back and watched the New Generation because there was some amazing 1, 2, 3 Kid Razor, Ramon, Shawn Michaels, there was some incredible stuff back then. But also, as being like 14, 15 at the time, I was like, this ain't good. This ain't
Men
good.
on a Mission wasn't doing it for you, King Mabel.
Oh man, King Mabel did not do it for me. Sir Mo was not the one for old TG. But so you're not watching independent wrestling, but you still had kind of a finger on the pulse enough to know who the folks were.
Yeah, like I knew of it. You know what that's probably the better way of doing it. I had maybe been a handful, maybe 1 or 2 independent shows locally in that time. But yeah, I thought, I just thought, how else can we kind of try to bring in a bigger audience instead of just the Retro Legends audience? So, but ECW definitely, they seem to be available, some of the ECW, and they're local. But the big thing is, so back to Mike Archer, he also, when we had that little coffee talk there, he actually tried out to be a wrestler. That was his first avenue. At some point in his life, he went to wrestling school. I forget how long, but he was not cut out for it. We'll put it that way. But interesting enough, one of the people he met there and became friends with was Tommy Dreamer. Okay. No shade to Mike Archer. I myself went to wrestling school. It ain't fun. Yeah.
That is actually how I am where I am now with my friendship with AJ, because I went to a wrestling school. I sucked. I was so bad. I ended up being a referee and a commentator because I was so bad at wrestling. But yeah, wrestling school. No shade to Mike. I appreciate the hustle. But Tommy Dreamer is obviously, he's Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah. So we had a connection there, and he's like, well, how about Tommy Dreamer and some ECW guys. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I watched it. So that was pretty easy to do.
Oh, okay.
Because of Mike. So Mike was like legit, like not just he was friends with him. You know what I mean? So, you know, and then I got to know Tommy a little bit. Great guy. And we signed him on. So now we got the Road Warrior, and but his first thing is, well, who else you got? You know what I mean?
Right.
So Tommy Dreamer was our next signing, and you know, I think I have a I don't know if I had a conversation with him at this point. We'll fast forward. We bring him out to do some publicity for our pre-order, but that's not for another year at this point. So we signed him. I met with Mike. It was October 2018 because I went back and I looked. So that's when we first met. And I would say we signed Tommy in the next probably 3 to 5 months. We got Tommy signed on. As me and Mike were working through our list and trying to formulate what our best approach would be. So we get Tommy on board. So now I got 3 wrestlers. And we have now at this point we have 4 body types. Right. So now I'm trying to find artists. So I have to I could basically go to other websites. So our art pipeline becomes, we have our 4 body types. Actually, before that, before artists, we need to find an animator. So I need somebody to do moves. So I find a guy in Brazil who was into wrestling and could do animations. He was not that hard to find. He took a little bit. And it was expensive. So this is where the whole 10 times cost. Didn't even think, all right, now I got 12. I want to have 12 wrestlers at a minimum. I need 12 at a minimum. That's what WrestleFest had. So that's kind of where I got my minimum from. But it would be nice to have 16. And now it's like, all right, everybody can't have the same moves. So we're not in 1980 anymore, 83, when the big pro wrestling came out. And I felt like I couldn't even just do what WrestleFest had because, you remade a game that's 25 years old. Amazing.
Right.
You know?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So now it's like, now my budget is kind of, this is my revised forecast of my costs, the first of many that would come, because I'm putting it together. And now I'm like, all right, yeah, my animation budget was way under scoped based on what I could get. Because I took some assumptions of how much artwork would cost, and just the rework involved in it. And there aren't a lot of people that are familiar with wrestling moves that have that on their resume, you know? So, hey, I needed someone who's familiar with 2D animation, loves wrestling, can animate, knows what a Canadian destroyer is.
Of course. Yeah.
So there's this whole translation of, I'm already like, even with my lead programmer who I'd hired at this point, I had to explain to him gameplay. He'd never played a wrestling game, you know, which he understood the technology we were using, but he'd never played a wrestling game. And I'm designing it. And I explained to him, hey, you're going to, when you throw a guy into the ropes, it's called an Irish whip. Well, why is it called Irish? I'm like, I don't know. Don't worry about it. It's not important. And he comes back to you. Well, what can he do in that time? Absolutely nothing. He just comes back to you. Well, why would he come back to you?
You're thinking about it too much.
I go, don't worry about it. He will come back to you. And at that point, he can't input any button presses. He automatically will just come back to the opponent.
Yep.
You know, so it's like all of that stuff took time, and time is money, and being able to speak the language, to have the developer speak that language. And, you know, it was me not explaining things, like thinking I could give them most of the information and not giving exactly what I needed was a mistake that I made, because I knew what I wanted in my head. I did have a design document at this point, but it wasn't nearly detailed level enough for a non-wrestling person.
Got it.
So when you're building a development team, what I learned is, ideally your perfect candidate is someone who loves wrestling and knows programming, and can develop. There aren't that many. Like, if you look at the number of wrestling games that have come out, I would say in the US especially, only a handful of companies made them. You have to go to Japan. I don't speak Japanese. That's where the majority of wrestling games probably came from, was Japan. So, and I didn't have access to that, especially then. Not especially then. The internet's it's 20 years old, even in 2018. But the translation wasn't there. And one, I couldn't afford to go and outsource an entire game development to Japan anyway. So there were budgetary constraints. But it seemed like all the senior level people that could do a wrestling game, either I couldn't afford or didn't have the experience that I really wanted. So I had to make sure that, all right, my design document needs to be tighter. I need to really go out of my way and define what these systems are so that a non-wrestling person can program for it and understands what we're doing. Right. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So I got three wrestlers now. We're working on the engine, and I'm hiring an animator. So I get a guy who does good work. He does a couple sample animations that I paid him for, which is another thing you don't really think of. In my experience, it's not a good look, and it's not appreciated if you ask people to do like a sample artwork. People aren't going to want to do. You're going to have to pay for everything, which I get now. But there's a cost associated with that. So I the first guy I got wasn't the last guy I got who ended up going with wasn't the first guy I got. So gotcha. I had to pay for some sample animations. And again, it's not like it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of these costs that I didn't know about just because I was stupid.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I was ignorant to the process, and I didn't do enough homework up front to understand what ramifications these decisions were going to have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's again goes back to what I said at the beginning. This is why they say make a small game. Don't do something so ambitious right away. But I was like, But even in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it differently because I wasn't interested in making any other type of game than this one. Like, that's the only thing I wanted to be. There was no plan B. There was no, I could do a Metroidvania. I could do a platformer to get my feet wet. They're a little easier to do. The scope's a little smaller. I wasn't interested in that. Like, and for me, I had to be super passionate because I wasn't doing this like as a business per se initially. It was a hobby. It was a glorified hobby at first until I started writing checks to people. Right. But it was a glorified hobby at first until I got serious. And when I got serious, I'm like, all right, let me peel back the onion and let me really understand the economics of making a game. And that's what I did early on. So it cost me some money up front, those mistakes, but I think I right the ship pretty quickly. And I started to learn, a lot of times you get what you pay for when it comes to artists. You can get cheaper artists that will do stuff because they're just trying to get experience and get a little paid for a little something for it.
Yes.
But if you get people that are more experienced, you will pay more. The work will be better, but you'll get it closer to right the first time through as well. So, you're learning. I'm learning all these lessons of from don't trust somebody when they say they have a meeting with Hulk to hire, where to find artists, how to do licensing. So now I have two avenues. There's word of mouth. Or I'm sorry, there's find a booker online and just do it that way. Now I have somebody who I'm paying monthly at this time to help consult and help me find other people who's tied into WWE, the wrestling industry. So he gets me kickstarted there. And then the next piece of the licensing is start just going to conventions and meeting people. So we won't go into that much because I didn't do that much of that at this point.
Right.
But that'll probably be in an episode or two away. But as we're signing other people, but getting Dreamer and then basically the next couple guys are who Mike Archer had contacts with. So I basically paid Mike to get his contact list that he had built up a reputation for, and his reputation for, obviously he's not going to do that for free, nor should he. He has a reputation that he built in the game industry and the wrestling industry as a respected person. did things the right way. And so I basically bought his contact list. He did all the introductions, so he's the one who worked them. He would bring me
of
in.
course.
He would gauge interest and then bring me in, and then we would discuss terms and see what we could get them for and go from there. So
yeah, I mean, he literally, I said it before, but he does sound like the ideal person. Like,
without a doubt.
He knows gaming,
yeah,
and he knows wrestling, and he knows wrestlers as well. Like, it's one of those things where, oh yeah, so and so knows a wrestler. Do they really? And it turns out it's some guy that does the carnivals every summer or something. And it's like, no, he actually does know people. So Mike is someone you still work with today.
Yeah, like I said, I talked to him 2 days ago. So
that's so cool.
And he's really good. He looks out for my pocketbook because I have some grand ideas of things, and he's in tune, because especially working in game development, because some of this stuff, some of these mistakes that I've mentioned in here with the artists, the timeline's a little skewed. Like all this happened roughly the same time, but Mike came in probably after some of these early mistakes I had made with the animation and the artwork and stuff like that. So, but yeah, he definitely made sure that I was aware of what he thought certain people were worth and what the market value was. Every talent thinks they're probably worth more, including myself, as far as like in the line of work that I do. When we bill out work, and everyone wants to pay them less than that. You know what I mean? So there's always that negotiation to somewhere where you're happy making this amount and I'm happy paying this amount. And that's a negotiation with anything. You know what I mean? So it's some people, though, we just couldn't sign because we thought they weren't worth as much. Some we thought were worth that much, but we just couldn't afford. And we were hoping to get a deal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's a whole range as we go through, and I'll go through each of them. So far, we're at the Road Warriors and Tommy Dreamer. I'll go through how we signed each of them. How, for the most part, though, the spoiler alert for future episodes, everyone was pretty easy to work with. I'll be honest. Like,
right.
It's probably different than, I'm not asking them to put their body on the line for me. So it's
no.
It's a paycheck, but it is their reputation that they're entrusting to me. They don't want to be associated with some stinker of a game. So at that regard, they're definitely putting their reputation on the line with me. And they don't want me going out putting out some crappy game that's a cash grab. But they, for all of them, took a chance on me. And I think we fast forward to 2026, we released our patch this past week. Finally, we were alluding to it earlier. Patch 7 is out there now. Really happy with the end-all product.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go through each of them. But Tommy was great. Initially, I ended up doing his podcast at some point. He brought me out to a couple of conventions at the time his wrestling company was running. So he's been great to work with throughout the process. I couldn't ask for a better partner. Anytime I asked him to promote something, he did. So it was really great working with him.
Did it kind of snowball once you had, Road Warriors and Tommy Dreamer? Like, those are three very recognized. If you are interested in wrestling at all, those are three very recognizable names that have been literally everywhere. So I can imagine once you had those three, it probably wasn't super hard to get more people interested.
It was definitely easier, but with that said, it was still, there's no book, and like, you can't go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm starting a wrestling game. How do I contact wrestlers and get them to sign on to your game? So some it's agents, some it's not agents, some it's estates that you're dealing with. It's widows you're dealing with. So most of the guys in my game are alive, or were at the time. Like Animal passed away a little before we launched the game, but for the most part, I'm dealing with people or their agents or their lawyer or somebody else. It's navigating that, talking to the right person, being persistent, because these guys what I have found, these guys get made a lot of promises in the wrestling industry, and I'm sure AJ could tell you stories about that left and right, or if you don't already know what he's going through. But there's a lot of shady promoters out there in regard. I met the booking guy I met right off the bat, like I dealt with was pretty shady. And so it's like yeah, sure, you're going to pay me. But, you know, the fact that I did pay up front, everybody up front. So I basically said, yeah, I'll send you a check as soon as you sign, you'll get a check within 30 days. So I think that me willing to do that and find the money to do that, to make sure if nothing else happens with this game, you got a paycheck out of it for basically signing your name.
Yeah.
So I think that helped. That helped because it's tough. Like, I get it if you're trying to do a licensed game and it's an indie developer and you don't have money, like it's hard to do what I did. But, you know, I saved some money up, and I thought that would be the best way to gain confidence in signing additional people is if I have references now. Well, everyone I worked with got paid. So now, did I make anybody a millionaire? No, I did not. But they made money for not a lot of effort on their part, and a product is out there that's a good product. So I feel like at the end of the day, I can sleep well at night knowing everybody got paid. I would have loved them to make more. I wish I would have sold more copies, but at the end of the day, they all got paid. A good product came out that they don't have to be embarrassed to say they were in. And, you know, I am really happy. So
I mean, it's for them as well. It's a good piece of merchandise almost. They can point to that and be like, oh, I was in this video game. Like, it's all well and good being in a WWE game, but like, we know they pretty much suck, you know, during this time frame. Like, they've got a lot better, but I know that if I want to play a game, just for argument's sake, I want to play as the Road Warriors. Well, the list of games that I want to go to is very small. There's like, well, there's like 1, maybe 2 games that are pushed. You know, it's kind of, for them, I can imagine being associated with that, especially for the younger guys as well. I imagine a guy like Warhorse and Chris Bay, for them, that must be freaking so awesome to be like, oh yeah, like I'm in this game. Like that's
and I'll tell stories about that when we get to it. But I'll tell you, I'll pat myself on the back, Barry Horowitz style here. They weren't signed to bigger promotions until, you know, then Warhorse has an appearance in AEW. Chris Bay eventually gets signed to TNA. So I mean, there's no one in your game now that is still kind of like an undiscovered gem of like, oh, who's this guy? Like, no, if you know wrestling, as we've spoken about, you know the guys in this game. So I am super pumped for more of this information. Like, it's so, I learn so much every week. It's so cool. Yeah, so we'll dive more next week. We'll dive more into the roster. I'm thinking on the timeline now. And I think we will get into our first, we start revealing the game, I think, next week on social media, which was a huge mistake. A huge mistake. Way too early.
Too early?
Yeah, we got a little too early, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next episode.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Remember to make sure you're following RetroSoft Studios online. Subscribe to this podcast, X, Instagram, all the social medias. You cannot escape us. And the podcast will be available on audio platforms soon. It is coming soon to audio platforms as well. So, stick around. There is more Wrestling with Game Dev to come.